This is John Black, super chemist. Basically, just going over some of the stoichiometry and some of my thoughts, some of my questions. Uh, Basically, I know the stoichiometry is 1-to-1 ratio on everything, but just because the chemical formula is 1-to-1 doesn't mean that's the way it is in real life, especially with acids, because the more the acid is used during the reaction, the more dilute it becomes and the less, reactive it is. So I'm not sure what the stoichiometry is, but I'm going to tell you how I came up with what my quantities were. One of the main things I was trying to do was not have to distill the vodka. I had to add water anyways, and one of my main concerns was I don't want to have to distill that. That's just too much work just to throw some water back in with it. And I wanted my ratios to come out where I didn't have to distill the ethanol. So there was enough water in there, or I could add some more water. It ended up I didn't have to add water, but I also did not have to distill the vodka. This is John Black. This is how I figured out my stoichiometry. First, I start out with sodium bromide, half a mole. I'm just arbitrarily, that's a nice even number. I can do the math easy. So half a mole is 51.5 grams. Now I go to the sulfuric acid. I basically want to double that, okay? And the reason why is because when you make hydrobromic acid, that's how they usually do it. They double it. And so that's 1 mole. 53 milliliters is a mole. Now the ethanol, I basically did the same amount, 1 mole, 1 mole, okay? That way they come out even. But I'm using 40%, okay? So if you look up here, you can see 58.3 milliliters is a mole, but I'm only using 80 proof, which is 40%. So to get that 1 mole, I'd need 146 milliliters to get 1 mole of ethanol. Now you can see this much would be ethanol and this much would be water. So you'd have 88 milliliters of water in there. Okay, so that's 1 mole ethanol, right? Now, how do I figure out how much water? Well, even though I'm not doing it, because I actually did try this by mixing the salt and the water and the ethanol together and dripping in the sulfuric acid, it did not work very good. Okay, even though I'm not doing it that way, I'm going to explain it that way. When you do the hydrobromic acid, it says that you should do it at a 5.8 molar sulfuric acid. When I get done with this, right, half of this is going to be reacted, half of this sulfuric acid is going to be gone, okay, at least, all right? Even though I'm not doing it this way, I'm going to explain it. This is how I did the stoichiometry. So half of this will be still there. 27 milliliters will be left, right? If I want 6, instead of 5.8, I'm going to do 6 molar because it's nice and easy, okay? So for every 167 milliliters of liquid, you have to have 1 mole of sulfuric acid to be 6 molar. All right. Now, when this is done reacting with that sodium bromide, it's going to be half there. So I'll have a half a mole of sulfuric acid when I'm done. And so I'll have 27 milliliters, which is half of 53, right? Now, we figured out that I have 88 milliliters of water already, right, from the ethanol. Now, if you add them two together, it's 115 milliliters. Now, I already figured it out. It's only like 4 molar or something like that, 4.3 molar. So that means when I get done with my reaction, I'm only going to have 4.3 molar. And I need at least 5.8 for this reaction, in my mind, to go forward. So what I did was I figured out, what if I did 3/4 of a mole of sulfuric acid? That's just a little bit more, right? 3/4 of a mole, I'd need 125 milliliters of liquid to be 6 molar, right? So I get done with reacting this. I have a half a mole up here, and then the other
half a mole I'm going to add in extra, or a quarter mole, because that'll be half a mole and a quarter is 3/4, right? So I'll have half a mole, and I'll have a quarter mole that I threw in. That's just 3/4, right? So that's 40 milliliters, plus the 88 milliliters from the water. That's 128 milliliters. Now that equals pretty much 125 milliliters, and I have 3/4 of a mole left. So that means I'll have a 6 molar sulfuric acid when the reaction is complete with the sodium bromide. Now I know the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to drip the sulfuric acid into the ethanol, then add the sodium bromide. So these two will react first, and they'll react completely. But this is how I'm figuring out the stoichiometry anyway. You can see I changed the amount up here. I added another quarter mole, see? So that adds up to 66 milliliters I'm going to put in there, and I can cross this right out. And over here is the whatever. Half mole, 27. Quarter mole, 13, equals 40. Plus the 88 from the water is 128. And we are adding 88 milliliters of water. It's just it's inside the ethanol, so we don't have to really add it, but it's already added inside there. Keep in mind when I do the percentage of alcohol, that's not really the right way. I was just trying to get the gist of it, a close estimate. Because if you have 1,000 milliliters of, or let's say you have 400 milliliters of ethanol and you have 600 milliliters of water, and you add them together, you're not going to get 1,000 milliliters. You're going to get less. So percentages aren't exactly perfect. I should have looked up the mole to mole ratio, but I figured it. I just wanted to get it close. So just to let you know. All right, I tried to do a little side thing here since I had the stuff. I'm trying to do an SN2 and take the the bromide off and put a hydroxyl group back on and make ethanol again. So basically, I got a mole of sodium hydroxide just sitting in the bottom there in the pot, and then up on the top, I'm going to drip some of the ethyl bromide into it, and also some water. However, the water is going to be on the top layer. They're going to form two layers, and it'll take a while for the water to actually get in there. It does fizzle. There's not much of a temperature differential or anything. It looks like something's happening, but after the water started being added, I felt something was happening, but I refluxed it for hours. I distilled it several times, and just kept putting it back into the pot. And it was like 4 or 5 hours of heating this, and I only got about a milliliter of ethanol. And I did put about maybe 150 milliliters of water in there, along with the mole of sodium hydroxide and the half a mole of ethyl bromide. But it didn't seem to work. So if anyone has any suggestions or anything like that, give me a post and let me know what you think. Maybe something else I should try to get this to go back to the ethanol.